Now, let's go to that very unfortunate incident. For some, Kayode Ido did say, well, they have boats, but some others are saying they don't have boats. The governors rent boats for INEC. And, let's look at the materials lost as well as lives. Did you think that the people that those materials were meant for actually voted on that day? Because we're trying to look at these figures of those who voted. 1.6 million voters in Edo State, and at the end of the day, the total number of those votes cast didn't even get up to 1 million.
Well, we want to condole the families of those who lost their lives, the 3 police officers and 1 INEC staff. It is the responsibility of INEC to provide for elections, provision of materials and logistics, whatever that will facilitate their operations. The state government has had nothing to do with providing boats or not providing boats, providing vehicles or not providing vehicles for INEC. They are an umpire, they are an agency funded directly from the presidency. So to that extent, it would be wrong for anyone to say that we hired boats for them. But it's quite unfortunate that that incident happened. And also talking about the issue of boats hiring and boat buying and all of that, I think it might be cheaper for INEC to hire boats at elections, since it's a seasonal thing, rather than just buying boats and keeping them somewhere or giving them to some persons to use. So the morality of buying or not buying, is not the issue, but whether they got the right one that will facilitate their logistical operations is another matter altogether. And we've not been able to find out whether exactly those materials that were meant for people of Lugbo and environs, whether they actually got materials to boat. Perhaps that also explains why there was the low figure that was recorded at the election. 630,000 people voting in a population of 1.6 million voters. It's just about 38% of the voters. I think, in future elections, I think these are areas that INEC has to look into.
Even though we talk about the independence, the state of INEC, is there any way the state governments come in to help INEC when it comes to executing elections?
There's no rule. There's no rule for state governments. And INEC is an unbiased umpire, so it is expert. That's why it is called Independent National Electoral Commission. And the laws governing INEC are provided for adequately in the Constitution and the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. And so, to that extent, INEC should naturally draw its funding from either direct charge or from the presidency. As it is, I'm told that it is from the presidency. It's an agency of the presidency, but part of the recommendations and desires of Nigeria is that INEC should enjoy funding from direct charge. So if INEC wants 10 billion, they should apply to government to get 10 billion to do whatever it has to do in any election, either state or federal. And so we have no hand in funding INEC or even recommending that INEC should be funded from state government. That should be a wrong approach.
Okay, as someone who was there at the elections in Edo State while the elections were taking place, I think we can ask you, how would you rate INEC? How would you score INEC and why?
Well, rather than rating INEC, I will rate the people of Edo State, the Edo voters. I'm amazed at their level of enlightenment, their level of mobilization and sensitization. And I want to use this opportunity to thank them. You see, because what we saw on ground before the elections, we were thinking that we were going to, the use of money by the opposition parties and all of that was something that we couldn't contend with. We were raising worries and raising doubts. Could people set their conscience? Voters' cards were being bought with the pittance, 5,000, 10,000. We have evidence, recorded evidence. We presented all of this to INEC. So I want to rate the Edo voters very high. I want to praise them. I want to commend them. I want to commend the Omonoba of Benin for the fatherly role he played all through. They still retain the sanctity of the palace. I want to commend the other traditional rulers who refused to bow to threat. And
are you thanking them because in a such way they endorsed the governor?
Apart from endorsing the governor, they also ensured that they also cooperated with with the security apparatus that was put in place to ensure that the election was violent free. You see, you need people who are custodians of their own environment to give you a guide. You can't be, if you're a stranger in my own house, you might not know the nitty-gritty, the corners and the nooks and crannies of my home.
Because if they truly truly there was an endorsement from traditional rulers and institutions there in Edo State, that's also some kind of godfathers or godfatherism hand in the whole politics.
Well, with this election, we have broken the shackles of godfatherism.
Through the endorsement of some godfathers from the traditional institutions.
No, the traditional ruler is entitled to one vote. That was what we insisted.
But their
we insisted
their endorsements can actually get you 1,000 votes. Well,
if you visit a traditional ruler, he gives you blessings and all of that. I don't think you want to reject that, Suleiman, as a candidate running for an election. And their endorsement was not out of place because they could see things happening within their domain. So I want to thank them that for once they stood firm for us to break the shackles of godfatherism and rewriting the Edo narrative. The narrative of one man, one vote.
A quick one here. What can the people of Ondo State learn? Because on that day, Mark and I, we had to call this maybe the Edo example. If truly it's an example for others, so what can the people of Ondo pick from the elections in Edo State?
Yes, I think there's so much to learn from Edo State. One, sustaining the mantra of one man, one vote is very key to any representative democracy, because whoever emerges, represent the wishes and aspirations of the people. That's why you see after the elections, you can see the calm in Edo State. I don't think you are hearing any blue model from Edo State. You are hearing any kind of tension and all of that. And I also want to commend the opposition parties who participated in the elections.
I was just about waiting for that.
accepting, the outcome of the election results. And I also want to advise the major opposition party candidate that rather than seek any redress in the tribunal, he should save his money. People are not going to be honest with him. They want to, they want to take money from him and say, let us pursue this case in the tribunal. Though people have spoken, the margin of the defeat is something that you can't even contemplate. And so, to that extent, I wouldn't know what anybody will be going to tribunal to say, as a consequence of this election, that, perhaps this is this, this is that. So, we are very grateful, eternally grateful to the people of Edo State. We have issued statements to commend everyone who participated in the process, civil society groups, election observers, election monitors, and all that, including INEC. We also commend them for even announcing the results at the appropriate time.
I mean,
I won't rate.
It's not enough to just commend them. How would you say they performed?
I won't rate. I have a scientific mind.
Because if I say rate the people of Edo State now, you will say excellent, from all that you've said. Exactly.
Fantastic.
But why would we?
Yeah, because I related with them more. INEC role was just on that day, but we have been related with these voters for quite a time, so I'll have an opinion about the voters. But on the issue of INEC, I want to commend them. They deserve commendation for conducting an election that was devoid of any crisis. In spite of the initial skirmishes here and there, they were still able to put their ass together, and at the end of the day, deliver to Edo people the right candidate in Comrade Adams Oshomole to continue the good work he has commenced in his first term. And by November 12th, when the swearing ceremony will take place, at least we'll be inviting channels to cover it live, so that the Edo people will see for once that it is not easy to defeat the godfathers.
Yeah, let's also ask a very quick question here. Should we also expect to see this level of fairness, as it were, with the State Electoral Commission when finally the local government elections approach?
Of course. Well, no, the local government elections is within the purview of the Edo State Independent Electoral Commission. So since we are not going to dictate to them what they do, they are also.
Are they true? Are you insinuating that they are actually independent?
They are State Independent Electoral Commission. So they have to prove that by ensuring that when the local government elections come up, they will be able to ensure that there's fairness, there's freeness, and that the process is credible. And talking about Ondo State also, they should insist that one man, one vote counts, because that is the key. That is the key factor in ensuring that the right persons are voted into office. If you vote in the wrong person, it's like the minority rigging out the majority. It will end up in crisis and violence, and nobody is praying for that. And so, to that extent, Edo election is a big relief. When I came here last week and I told you some of the measures we put in place to check all of this, perhaps you were thinking, even in the imagination of some people, they thought, the PDP was going to prove a surprise in Edo State because of the kind of crowd, oriented crowd.